yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video we're going to make this beautiful Bloom baby blanket. It's a beautiful yarn. This yarn is called Bloom. It is from Premier. This is what the label looks like. I used almost all three of my skeins for this blanket. Premier Yarns Bloom Chunky Self-Striping Floral Print. It is a bulky number 5, 100% acrylic yarn, and it is so beautiful and soft. As you saw in that beginning of our video, it is just a gorgeous yarn. Now I'll put the link to the Premier yarn underneath this video, so if you want to go and look at all the other colors, they have 6 or 7, maybe 8 different colorways. I was drawn to this one because you know I love yellow, and this one is called Daisy, and I just love it for this project. But you can use any of the Bloom yarns for this project, and of course any of the chunky yarns as well. So just click that link underneath the video that says Premier Yarn, and then click the yarn tab and click Chunky, and you'll find the Bloom yarns. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous yarns. Now this was a really simple pattern, and I did want to explain to you that if you make the pattern according to the size that I have made, it's going to be approximately 26 by 26. It is a square blanket. But the neat thing about this pattern is the way that it's written. You can make it smaller for maybe a preemie, or if you want to make it bigger for bigger babies or toddlers, or even a nice big blanket for yourself, you can continue to repeat the rows. Once we get our rows established, continue to repeat them until it's the length and the width that you want. You can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. The repeat rows are really simple, and I think you're really going to love how beautiful this blanket is. So it's a versatile blanket, it's a beautiful blanket, and you're going to enjoy making it. Now you can find all the information for this pattern along with photos and a written pattern on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. I designed my Bloom baby blanket using Bloom yarn from Premier Yarn. This is the chunky one, self-striping floral print. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's super soft and it washes up really nicely. It is a bulky number 5, and you're going to need 3 of these. All right, and each one has 3.5 ounces. So if you want to use a different yarn, you are going to need a bulky for this one, because it stitches up quickly. It makes a great last minute baby gift. And so you're going to need approximately 10.5 ounces total of your print yarn. Now you can do this in a solid, you could do it in striping yarns, totally up to you. It is absolutely gorgeous in this Premier Bloom chunky print yarn. I will put the link to this yarn underneath the video so you can go and look at all the other colors that they have, because they do have some beautiful colors. I was drawn to this one because I love the yellow in it, and I also love the way this particular section of pink and green and kind of a soft white is. All right. Now, I did my trim for my blanket in this, and this is also a bulky 5 acrylic yarn, and this is I Love This Chunky from Hobby Lobby. It is also soft, it's acrylic, and they're a good match for both. I would have gone online and bought more in white that was similar to this, but I already had this on hand, and you can use any bulky number 5 yarns for this project. All right, so you'll need 3 of the Bloom and probably half of the I Love This Chunky in white. And the truth is, you don't have to do it in white. You can do the trim in this. You'll just need to get another skein of yarn. All right, we're going to be stitching today with our L hook, and that's an 8mm crochet hook. All right, Then you'll just need a needle to weave in ends and a pair of scissors. You're going to love this because it works up fast and it's the perfect last minute baby or baby shower gift. We're going to be starting with the center of that flower, then working it into a square, and then working our blanket out. The neat thing about this blanket is you can make it small for like a preemie blanket, or you can keep going with those rounds and make it as big as you want. All right, so we're going to start with our slip knot. We're going to chain 5 and join this chain 5 into a circle. Pull that yarn through that loop and then we'll snug that down. If you would rather use the magic circle or another method for your circle, you certainly can. We're going to go in and pull up a loop and chain 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a 2 double crochet cluster. So we'll yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and just go through the first 2 loops. Now we'll yarn over and go back in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through the first 2 loops. That leaves 2 unfinished double crochets and then our beginning loop. So we're going to yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. And then we'll chain 1. And now we're going to do that 5 more times, so we have a total of 6. You will notice that I'm stitching over this tail of yarn as well, and that's so I can close up that hole when we're done. All right, so yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, only go through the first 2. Yarn over, go back in, pull up a loop, yarn over, only go through the first 2. We have those 3 loops, yarn over and go through all 3 and chain 1. So now I have 2 double crochet clusters and we need a total of 6. There's 3. 4, chain 1, 2, chain 1, so that gives us 5, and then there's our 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clusters, and I'm going to join to that first one with a slip stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch in that first, chain 1 space and chain 1. Now before we go any farther, I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to gently pull on that string and go ahead and weave in this end. Now you can do it later if you want to. I like to just go ahead. Then I don't have to worry about it later. And we just go back and forth until that is nice and snug. And the hole is closed. There we go. And so for round 1, we have 6 sets of our 2 double crochet clusters with chain 1s in between. All right, we're ready for round 2. In this chain 1 space, we're going to stitch 2 double crochet clusters like we did on the previous row. Chain 1 and then another 2 double crochet cluster in that same chain 1 space. And then chain 1. And we'll do this in each of those chain 1 spaces. We'll stitch 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1, and 2 double crochet cluster in the same chain 1 space, and chain 1. And so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1, 2 double crochet cluster in each of the chain 1 spaces, and join back to our first 2 double crochet cluster. I have completed round 2. We stitched 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1, 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 in each of those 6 chain 1 spaces. We slip stitch to the next chain 1 space, and now we're basically going to repeat what we just did, and we're going to place 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1 in each of the chain 1 spaces all the way around. So we'll have 12 of them for round 3. All right, so we'll go right in that first one. Two double crochet cluster, chain 1 and 2 double crochet cluster, and chain 1. Now we'll go to the next one. One and 2 double crochet cluster and chain 1. And see, we're moving all the way around in each of the chain 1 spaces, stitching 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 and 2 double crochet cluster in each of the chain 1 spaces. And we're going to repeat this all the way around, and again join back to our first stitch. I have completed round 3. We have 12 sets of 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1, 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1. All right, we're going to join to that first cluster and then slip stitch in the chain 1 space and chain 1. And so what we're going to do for round 4 is we're again going to place a 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 and a 2 double crochet cluster in this chain 1 space, and we're going to chain 2. Now we'll go to the next where we have our next set of 2 and stitch a 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 and 2 double crochet cluster, and chain 2. So we're basically doing the same thing we did on round 3, only we're placing a chain 2 in between our sets of 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 and 2 double crochet cluster. And we want to make sure we're putting them in the chain 1 space of the 2 sets, not in between, because we want to have 12 sets of 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 and 2 double crochet cluster, with chain 2s in between. All right, we don't stitch in that chain 1 in between the 2 sets. All right, so I'll move over here to my next one and stitch a 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1, 2 double crochet cluster, and chain 2. So there's chain 1 in between our 2 clusters, but chain 2s in between our sets. And we'll do this all the way around. So I have completed row 4. We have 12 sets of 2 double crochet cluster, chain 1 and 2 double crochet cluster with chain 2s in between. Here's my last chain 2. So we're going to join to that first cluster with a slip stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch in that chain 1 space, and we're going to chain 3. Okay, so on row 5 we're going to begin to form the square so that we can make our blanket. All right, so in this first chain 1 space, I'm going to stitch 2 more double crochets. Chain 1 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to only chain 1. Then I'm going to go to this first chain 2 space and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to chain 2, go to the next chain 2 space and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to chain 2 and go to the next chain 2 space and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. All right, so we've got our first corner. We chained only 1, then 3 double crochets, chain 2 in those 3, chain 2 spaces. Let me only chain 1 here and go in that corner and stitch 3 double crochets. Chain 1 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then only chain 1. So the way that row 5 works is we stitch our corner, 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. Then we only chain 1. Then we stitch 3 double crochets, chain 2 in those next 3 chain 2 spaces. Then we only chain 1 and we do our corner. 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 3 double crochets, chain 1. And so now I'm going to go in these next 3 chain 2 spaces and stitch 3 double crochets, chain 2. Chain 2. 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and see, we're to our corner, so we're only going to chain 1. That's very important in the construction of this blanket. All right, and then we go to that next corner and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. More yarn out here. There we go. Chain 1 and 3 double crochets. And chain 1. All right, see how that's starting to form our square for our blanket? So we'll repeat this 2 more times and join back to our first chain 3. I have completed row 5. We have our 4 corners of 3 double crochet, chain 1, and 3 double crochet. We chained 1 before and after the corner, and then we have 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. All right, so now we're going to join to our first chain 3, and then slip stitch to the corner, and chain 3. All right, now for row 6, we're going to begin the solid rows. All right, so in this first chain 1 space, we're going to stitch, we have our chain 3, which counts as our first double crochet. Then we'll stitch 2 more, 1 and 2, and then chain 2. We were doing chain 1, now we're doing chain 2 in the corner, and then 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So we've stitched our corner. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip these 3 double crochets and stitch 1 double crochets in that chain 1 space. Then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in those 3 double crochets. All right, now we're at the chain 2 space, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in that chain 2 space, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 3 double crochets. One double crochet in that chain 2 space, 1 double crochet in the next 3 double crochets. And then we come to the chain 1 space. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the chain 1 space and chain 1. Now this brings us to our corner. We're going to skip those 3 double crochets and go right to the corner and stitch 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 2 and then 3 double crochets in that same corner. And chain 1. All right, let's take a look at what we did real quick. So here's our corner. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. We chained 1 and we skipped these 3 double crochets. We double crocheted in the chain 1 space, and we stitched a double crochet in the chain 2 spaces and 1 in each of our double crochets. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 double crochets, chain 1, and skip the next 3, and then we do the corner the same. So you're going to have a chain 1 before and after your row, or before and after your corners. All right, so then we would turn to do the next side. We've chained 1, we chain 1 in that chain 1 space, and then just continue across the same way we did over here. So you're going to repeat this on these next 3 sides and then join back to our chain 3. So now I have completed round 6. We have our 4 corners. We have a chain 1 before and after our corner. Then we have solid row here with 13 double crochets on each side. Now this is going to be our repeat row that gets bigger and bigger. After we chained 1 here, we joined to our chain 3, we slip stitched in those 2 double crochets and then slip stitched in the corner in that chain 2 space and chained 3. All right, and so the repeat is the same. We're going to stitch our corner the same, so I'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets because that chain 3 counted as our first. So there's our first corner, chain 1. We're going to skip these 3 double crochets and double crochet in that chain 1 space, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. Alrighty, almost there. that brings us to that chain 1 space. So we're going to double crochet in that chain 1 space and chain 1. And so now on this row here we had 13 double crochets. Now we have 15 because we double crocheted in the chain 1 space before and after and added a chain 1. And then we'll do the same thing in this corner that we did in the other corner. We'll do our 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets, and then chain 1. And then you'll repeat this on all of the other sides, all 3, and join back to your chain 3. So we did the complicated part first. Now we're doing the repeat rows that are super easy. I have now completed row 7. So we have our corners of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets with our chain 1 before and after, skipping those 3 double crochets, and then we start with that chain 1 space and stitch a double crochet across. And so for row 7 we have 15 double crochets on our sides with those 2 chain 1 spaces. And this is the way that the pattern's going to work. You're going to repeat row 7 for at least 9 more rows. And that's going to give you a nice size baby blanket, about 26 by 26. But if you want your blanket to be bigger, you can continue to repeat row 7 for as many rows as you want to. It's totally up to you. Now for my pattern, I repeated it for 9 more rows. And you're going to increase your sides on every row. For instance, we had 13, and then on row 7 we had 15. So then you'll increase by 2 on your sides on every row as it gets bigger. All right? So continue to repeat row 7 for at least 9 more rows, increasing every row. So I have completed those 16 total rows. We did 9 additional rows, and you can see how it makes a nice solid on each of the sides with this beautiful sort of open where we did our corners. And I really, really love how this blanket turned out. Now, it needs a trim, right? You can, if you have more yarn that you're using, you can use the yarn that you're using. But I wanted to put a white trim because I wanted it to just sort of pop out, okay? So I've gone ahead and I've cut my yarn here. So I have my swatch here, and I'm going to show you how to stitch up that really simple trim. So in the next chain 2 space, we're going to single crochet. And of course, I've brought in my next color. If you want to do your trim in the blanket color, you certainly can. All right, so it doesn't matter whether you're stitching in a double crochet or chain 1 space. We're going to do this the same. All right, so we're going to single crochet. We're going to skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to stitch that simple shell stitch. And our simple shell is just 4 double crochets, all stitched in the same stitch. Okay. Then we'll skip the next 2 stitches and stitch a single crochet. Then you'll skip the next 2 stitches and stitch that shell stitch. And this is a really nice simple trim for this blanket. And I like to do a simple trim when I have a really fun and beautiful yarn that I really want to be the star of the project. All right, and this is all you do. You just single crochet, skip 2, shell stitch in the next, skip 2, single crochet in the next, and repeat all the way around all 4 sides of your baby blanket. And this will make a really, really nice and lovely trim, whether it's for a boy or for a girl, or maybe you don't know yet because they're deciding to wait until the baby's born to know what it is. All right, and so that's our really simple shell stitch trim all the way around all 4 sides, and then join back to your first single crochet. And so this is the completed shell stitch around my blanket, and you can see it just adds enough to make it beautiful, and it's a soft trim. And so that is our Bloom baby blanket. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's soft, and I love this yarn.